All right, good day, everybody. Steve Prziborowski here. Welcome to episode 15 of Reach for the Firefighter Badge. Episode 15 is going to discuss basic questions to ask yourself before you start the process of becoming a firefighter. Or if you're in the process of becoming a firefighter as we speak, still some good basic questions to ask yourself to ensure you're preparing properly and that you're on the right page. So, starting out, my two websites, code3firetraining.com as well as ShabotFire.com have a lot of great resources on there by clicking the free stuff links. So please feel free to take some time to go around the website and you'll definitely benefit from the information within. These webinars are based on two of the three books that I've had published. Number one, the Future Firefighters Preparation Guide, as well as Reach for the Firefighter Badge, both of which are available off my websites. So let's talk about the process here, and let's talk about question number one that you should ask yourself. Simply put, what do you see as your greatest weakness? And then more importantly, what are you doing about your weakness? The reason I ask this question is because this is probably one of the most common oral interview questions that you're ever going to get. Fire department, non-fire departments. It's very common for an oral board and especially a fire chief to say, hey, what's your greatest weakness? Now, they may say what's your greatest weakness or what are your three weaknesses, but you got to have at least one weakness. And then more importantly, you can't just say it's weakness, but you also got to be doing something about it. But you also don't want to be doing so much about it that it's no longer a weakness, if that makes sense. Because I've heard some people say, well, my weakness is this, and to help get over the weakness, let's use an example. My weakness is maybe hazardous materials. Okay, what are you doing about the hazardous materials knowledge? Well, in the last year, I've taken a couple of hazmat classes at the college. I've also got my hazardous materials technician certification, and I'm also spending some time volunteering as a hazardous materials, whatever, technician. Okay, well, it might have been a weakness a year ago, but is it a weakness today? Well, you've solved your weakness problems for the most part. So try to have a weakness that you're working on. Also try to have a weakness that's not a deal breaker. And when I say deal breaker, listen to this. Let's say you're interviewing me for the fire chief position for your department. You want me to be the next fire chief, or I want to be your next fire chief, I guess is better yet. There's certain skills that a fire chief, a department head needs to have. Well, if you ask me, Steve, what's your greatest weakness? And I tell you, well, I'm not a people person. That's a deal breaker, I would think, especially as a fire chief. I would say not being a people person is probably a deal breaker as a battalion chief, captain, and even firefighter, because you're going to be around firefighters and groups of people on a daily basis. And you have to get things done through teamwork. So you probably don't want to say you're not a people person. Or let's say you're interviewing me for fire chief and I say, well, probably my listening skills is my greatest weakness. You know, I'm taking some classes at the college to try to be a better listener. I'm trying to be more self-aware as well too. But then you're probably going to say, those are deal breakers, Steve. We got to find something else. So there is no perfect answer. I know when I was in your shoes of wanting to become a firefighter, I remember asking all my instructors at the college, what's the best answer for this question? Because I couldn't come up with it. I mean, I could easily come up with strengths, nothing personal. I think we can all come up with strengths. But when it came to weaknesses, it's hard looking yourself in the mirror, especially when others, family members, friends tell you, hey, dude, you suck at whatever. It's hard to take that constructive criticism, even when they're nice about it and sugarcoat it and everything else. But anyway, you got to have a weakness. And I remember as a student wanting to be a firefighter, I remember asking the question, and it pissed me off that none of my instructors would tell me the perfect answer. Well, it took me a while to learn, and it took me until I was on the job, and I've been on hundreds of interviews. There is no perfect answer. And here's the thing. The answer I used to use, okay, I'm going to give away an answer here, but the answer I thought was the perfect answer when I was an entry-level firefighter candidate, time management is a weakness. So what I'm doing to help overcome the time management is I'm trying, I've got a calendar, I'm trying to schedule things, I'm trying to plan and organize things better. I'm not perfect, I'm still making mistakes, but time management is the biggest challenge, trying to squeeze everything into a typical day. Okay, well, I just gave that away to you. Here's the problem. If your college instructor or somebody you know tells you, hey, when you get asked this question, use time management or use planning skills or organizational skills or listening or whatever, realize if they're telling everybody the same thing, what do you think the oral board is hearing? The oral board's interviewing, say, 100, 200 candidates. If you're the first person to say time management, okay, that's fine. But when you're the 5th, the 10th, the 20th person that says the exact same answer, it really gets watered down. So my best advice to you is there are no perfect answers. Your answers have to come from the heart. So find a weakness that really isn't a deal breaker, but it's still a weakness, and make sure you know have a plan to show what you're doing to try to make it into a strength, or at least not be a weakness anymore. Second question to ask yourself, on the flip side of weaknesses, what do you see are your 3 greatest strengths? Again, a very common oral board question. Sometimes it's just what's your greatest strength, sometimes it's what's your 3 greatest strengths. So do some searches on the internet to find some good words. Now, again, just like the weakness question, I remember being an entry-level firefighter candidate going, okay, what's the best answer? Greatest strength. Should I be loyal? Should I be dependable? Should I be ethical, honest, motivated, hardworking? Yeah, they're all the same. There's nothing wrong with any of those. They're all good. But the problem is you don't want to say the same answers or clone answers that everybody else is using. Now, you'll never know what everybody else is using, obviously, but you also don't want to be the 20th person, the 30th person that comes in, yeah, I'm motivated, I'm dedicated, and I'm hardworking. And the oral board's like, okay, we've heard that all day long, all week long, because again, you're not being unique. So to help you be unique, obviously find out a bunch of strengths. So make sure you can share at least 3 strengths, but don't just say what the strengths are. I mean, if they ask you this question, like it commonly is asked, what's your 3 greatest strengths? Be able to say, I'm motivated, dependable, ethical, or whatever. But to make it unique and different, here's a little trick you can do that really helps personalize it. While the motivation or the dedication or the ethical or hardworking could be the same answer if that was the only word used, where it can be unique is if you say, okay, number 1, I'm a hard worker. Now, I'm going to back it up with an example. So don't just tell me you're a hard worker or you're motivated. Back it up with an example. I'm hardworking, and here's an example why. I'm dependable. I have not called in sick for the last umpteen years. So state something, back it up with a fact, a story that's probably going to be very unique to you, and more importantly, tie it into the position. Think about this question right here. Whether we use motivated, hardworking, dedicated, whatever, who is expecting you as a firefighter to be motivated, dedicated, hardworking? Who is expecting you? That's an easy one. Your crew, the public, the department, basically everybody. So state something, back it up with a fact, and tie it into the position, meaning dependability is probably my greatest strength. Here's an example of how I'm dependable. And then I think dependability is critical for a firefighter because virtually everyone depends on a firefighter, whether it's my crew to be with them, to have their back, whether it's the rest of the department, whether it's the fire chief, whether it's the community, blah, 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 blah. So state it, back it up with a fact, tie it into the position. Third question to ask yourself, what do you see as your greatest challenge in getting hired as a firefighter? And I'm using that to have you basically create a roadmap for yourself. As I've shared in past webinars, when I was testing to become a firefighter in the early 90s, I was noticing that a lot of departments in the San Francisco Bay Area required EMT and Firefighter 1 Academy, but a lot of them also required paramedic because paramedic was still very new in the mid 90s. So that at that time was pretty much my biggest challenge because I knew I had to be an EMT to, take more tests. I knew I had to get my Firefighter 1 Academy to help prepare for the position and also take more tests. But the writing was on the wall that, if I want to be a firefighter, I either got to be a paramedic or I've got to have something darn unique to be able to offer the department, whatever that is. Maybe bilingual, maybe some awesome charisma and personality. I don't know what it is. So find out what your greatest challenge or challenges are, and more importantly, do something about them. Just like with the first question, weaknesses. We all have them. The key is being able to talk about them and say what you're doing to try to improve upon them. And then, of course, when you get it where you need to be, find the next weakness to work on. Next question to ask yourself before you get started. Are you willing to stick it out for 3 to 5 years, give or take, to become a firefighter? It took me about 4.5 years to be a full-time firefighter. I've known people to get hired on the first test. It's rare. I've known people to get hired in a year or two after starting. I've known some to take 5 years. Hell, I've known some to take more than 10 years and more than 100 different tests. The average person is probably not going to put 10 years, let alone 5 years in. And I'm not saying 5 years. I mean, some people that get hired in 3 to 5 years, they sporadically do it, meaning they don't take a lot of tests. They maybe take 1 test a year or maybe a couple a year. Well, the more tests you take, your odds are going to increase, one would like to think, as long as you're improving in the right direction with your list placement. But anyway, you've got to stick it out for the long haul. As I say, it's a full-time job getting the job. So if you're willing to stick it out for 3 to 5 years to become a firefighter, you got an awesome chance. But if you can't handle the pressure or especially the rejection, I used to save all my rejection letters. Again, it took me over 50 tests to get hired in 4.5 years. I used to save all those rejection letters of, "Dear Steve, thank you very much for applying with the whatever fire department. Unfortunately, you know, while you were ranked number whatever 10 or 5 or 105, we decided to hire a better candidate." Nothing personal, which it isn't personal. They made the decision they had to make. But I used to keep those as an inspiration and motivation for me. Now, I know some people would have burned them probably, or like, you know, gave their middle finger to the department, but you can't be negative. You can't be bitter. What doesn't kill us makes us stronger. So you got to be willing to stick it out. And if you're not, that's fine. Somebody else will get the job. That's how it works. Next question. How bad do you want to become a firefighter? I mean, and that sort of ties into the previous question. You've got to want this bad, because it isn't easy. It is not easy to become a firefighter, or for that matter, anything worth having in life. You know, if you want this bad enough, you're going to apply for many departments. You're going to do your homework, do your research, stop by firefighters, network, build relationships, learn about the position, learn about the job, the career that you want to work in. If you want it bad enough, you're willing to go anywhere. I mean, every now and then I'll share with the students, "Hey, such and such a department is testing." And then a lot of times somebody in class goes, "Chief, never heard of that city before. Google it." And it's like a city like 3 hours away or 4 hours away. There was one city in the Central Valley, or one county fire department, they run 1-person engine companies. 1 person on an engine. Most departments are 3 people on an engine. Some are 4, some are 2, but 1 person on an engine. I'm like, and I remember a friend that worked for on a 1-person engine company, and I remember going, "That must be difficult as ever." And he goes, "No, it's pretty easy." He goes, "It's boring as ever, but it's pretty easy. I got no one to argue with." He goes, "I got no personnel problems because," he goes, I serve as the captain, the firefighter, and the driver all at the same time," because he drives the rig and he's going to do everything and wear many hats. He goes, "Nah," he goes, "just gets boring, but hey, I'm good with it, you know." But I'm like, 1-person engine company. But as I share that with students, I remember sharing that department saying, "Hey, they're testing, but it's a 1-person engine company." And I remember hearing some of my students go, "Well, I don't want to work there." And it's like, "Hey, you know what you call that guy that works there?" Because I told them the story about my friend. They're like, "What?" I go, "He's a firefighter." He actually has a different rank because it's a 1-person company. But anyway, he's a firefighter just like the person that works in New York or Boston or San Francisco or LA or Dallas. Firefighter. The badge says the same, the patch says the same, the engine has the same on the side. So you get a paycheck, you get benefits. So if you want to be a firefighter bad enough, you're not going to limit yourself. No, it's nice to have a dream department of where you want to land in, but very few people land in their dream departments. And what you think may be your dream department may not actually be your dream department. You may land somewhere else that you didn't really want to, and hey, I actually like it here. It's a good bunch of people. It's a good group. You know, hey, don't judge a book by its cover. You never know really until you start working there. Even if you have disgruntled friends that work in a certain place, doesn't mean everyone's disgruntled. So don't discount anything if you want this bad enough. Next question, ask yourself, what makes you unique compared to the other candidates? That may be an oral board question as well. I've had that asked when I was an entry-level firefighter candidate. So Steve, what makes you unique? Well, here's the challenge. You're competing with double digits, triple digits, if not 4 digits, thousands of people. A lot of candidates are quick to say, well, I'm better than them, or I'm better than that. Okay, first of all, you don't know the rest of the competition. I mean, you may have some friends that are also testing, but the best answer is usually, well, I can't speak about the other candidates because I don't know that. I know a couple of people that are applying, but I don't know the majority of the candidates. So without slamming them or putting them down, because you can't, here's what I have to offer. Here's why I believe I'm unique. Because if you met the minimum qualifications to apply, which might have been 18 years old, high school diploma, so did everybody else. Well, I got my EMT and my firefighter 1. Yeah, you and everybody else. Well, I was a volunteer firefighter. You and everybody else. Well, I got my paramedic. Okay, you and maybe 50 others. This is where it comes down to knowing yourself inside and out. Because again, we're not hiring a resume, we're hiring a person. So you being able to sell your heart, your brain, your personal characteristics, those positive characteristics, your niceness, your positive can-do attitude. Think about those characteristics that you fit into, that you can sell, that make you unique without slamming anybody else. Next question. Are you willing to accept that it's a full-time job getting the career of your dreams? I mentioned that before, but people have taken years to get hired. And sometimes when I ask them, when I've talked to people, it's like, yeah, it took me 5 years to get hired. And then or even worse, I love this. I've been testing for 5 years and this is BS and I can't get hired. I'm just going to give up. And okay, I mean, I'm game. Let's have a conversation. So you've tested for 5 years. My usual next question is, so that means you've taken about what, 50 tests, 75 tests, different departments? I go, I took 50 plus tests in 4.5 years. And of course, usually the answer I get is, no, I took like 10 tests, or I took even less than that, single digits. So you're saying that you took maybe 1 or 2 tests a year for 5 years, and you're pissed because you didn't get a job offer? Huh? Now, the next question usually is, well, how did you do on the written tests? Did you even pass them with 70%? A lot of times, no. How did you do on oral interviews? Did you make it to the next level, the chief's interview? And a lot of times, no. Okay, did you make it to background investigations? No. Okay, well then obviously, the problem's obviously not with the department. The problem is, look in the mirror, it's you. And I don't mean that negatively. Not everyone's meant to be a firefighter. Not everyone can be or should be a firefighter. I mean, I know that sounds harsh, but I mean, if you want this bad enough, you should be able to make it work. If you're not the strongest person in the world, that's okay, because it's not always about strength. It's about technique a lot of times. Even if you got a really bad background and really bad background, arrest records and everything else, I'm not going to say you're not going to get hired. I'm not going to say you are going to get hired. It's just going to make it tougher. But again, if you want this bad enough, it's a full-time job. When I say that, it means you're working probably full-time to keep the money and the food on the table for yourself or your family, or both, hopefully. You're maybe volunteering your time somewhere. Maybe you're going to school somewhere. You're obviously keeping an active social life as best as possible. And more importantly, though, when I say full-time job, you're actively networking and looking and researching on a daily basis, not hopefully while you're on your current job, meaning if you're working at McDonald's, and that's nothing wrong with that, be the best McDonald's employee you can be if you're there. Don't badmouth McDonald's or your employer, because that shows negative character traits. But let's say you're working at McDonald's. Well, you better not be on your phone there trying to, okay, well, sorry, while people are waiting in the drive-thru, because that's pretty shitty customer service. You got to take care of the customers in front of you and take care of your coworkers. So you may not have you're not going to have time while you're working your current job, I would hope. But maybe you're working for an ambulance company as an EMT. Well, if you're working for an ambulance company as an EMT, you're also running calls probably with firefighters. So maybe there's an opportunity, number one, to hopefully network and build relationships and, hey, how's it going? As you run a call maybe with San Jose Fire today. Because like if you're a paramedic or an EMT in our county, and like most counties, you run calls with different departments. Hey, how you doing today, Rick? Have you guys heard when you guys are testing next? I haven't heard anything lately. I've been on the last list, but I don't expect to get hired. Any idea on the next test? Oh, contact our human resources department, or blah, blah, blah. Okay, go to the website. But you got to be constantly looking for opportunities to get ahead without stepping on people, obviously. But it's a full-time job getting the job. Otherwise, if you're not spending the time and effort and energy to do it, it's going to take you longer, and your odds are basically decreasing of getting the badge of your dreams. So in closing, nothing worth having comes easy. If it was easy, as they say, everyone would be doing it, but they're not. Again, we start out with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and we're lucky to find the select few to get hired. It's not usually by luck. It's usually timing meets luck, meets opportunity, meets people doing the right thing. So hopefully you're one of those people at that time to know when to line things up and to do the right thing. So good luck. Thank you as always for the gift of your time. My contact information, my social media information as well. Please feel free to reach out, connect with me on social media. Again, I hope these episodes you're finding some benefit to, and if you have ideas for future episodes, please feel free to reach out and give me that suggestion. I'll be more than happy to try to squeeze it in. All right, until next time, take care, be safe, and be well, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.